All right, everybody, welcome back to another deep dive.
Glad to be back.
Yeah. So for today's deep dive, we're going to be looking at how we should design our character.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So we've got just one source this time, but it's pretty intriguing. Kind of lays out this unique way of looking at character development.
All right, well, I'm all ears. Let's hear it.
Okay. So the quote goes like this: "Never design your character like a garden where anyone walk. Design your character like a sky where everyone desire to reach." Pretty powerful imagery, right?
Yeah, definitely. I like that a lot. What are your first impressions about it?
Well, I think the first thing that kind of jumps out at me is this contrast between a garden and a sky, right? Like a garden is very accessible. Anybody can just kind of walk in and out,
Right.
but the sky, you have to reach for it. It's aspirational.
Yeah, I see that. So you're saying like maybe it's about being more than just approachable?
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that's where it gets really interesting because when we talk about character, we're talking about, the sum of our values, our habits, the way we interact with the world.
Right.
So the quote is suggesting that maybe we shouldn't just aim to be likable or easy to get along with.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if you think about it, a garden is nice, it's pleasant, but it's not necessarily something that you would, aspire to be.
Exactly.
But the sky, like you said, it's fast. It's kind of awe-inspiring. It's something that you can't just casually stroll into.
Right. And it makes me think about like people who really inspire us, like historical figures or even people in our own lives who just have this kind of presence.
Yeah, absolutely. Like think about someone like Nelson Mandela, for example.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he wasn't just approachable, right? He had this incredible strength of character that was built on these really unwavering principles like forgiveness, even after decades of unjust imprisonment. It was his commitment to those values, even in the face of immense adversity, that made him such a powerful figure.
Yeah.
People didn't just like him, they were inspired by him, by his resilience, by his strength.
That's a really good example. And it makes this idea of a sky-like character, makes it feel a lot more concrete.
Yeah, definitely.
But there's this one word in the quote that really kind of grabbed my attention, and it's desire.
Oh, good.
It says, everyone desire to reach.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, like, what is it about certain people or certain characters that make other people want to be more like them?
That's a good question.
And that always a good thing? This desire that we inspire in others?
Right. Well, I think desire can be a very powerful motivator. It can push us to improve ourselves, to strive for greatness.
Yeah.
But it can also be manipulated.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we see it all the time, right? Like marketing campaigns that prey on our insecurities and make us desire things that we don't really need.
Yeah. It's like that whole idea of keeping up with the Joneses, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It makes you wonder, how much of this sky-like character should be about inspiring genuine admiration versus like playing to people's desires.
That's a good point. It's a really fine line, isn't it?
Yeah. It's almost like a tightrope walk.
It is. And I think that's a challenge for anyone who's trying to build a strong character. It's easy to fall into the trap of wanting to be admired or even envied. But true sky-like character, to me, it comes from a place of authenticity.
Yeah.
It's about aligning your actions with your values even when no one is watching.
So it's not necessarily about achieving some specific outcome or, getting to a certain level of recognition.
No, not necessarily.
It's more about the journey of self-improvement, right?
Yeah.
Of constantly striving to be better.
Exactly. And I think that's where the analogy of the sky really works, because the sky is limitless. There's always a new horizon to reach for.
But wouldn't that be kind of exhausting, though? Always reaching, never quite arriving?
Well, there's definitely a risk of burnout if you approach it from a place of never enough, Right.
But if you see it as an ongoing exploration, a process of learning and growth, it can be incredibly fulfilling.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's about enjoying the journey,
Yeah.
Not just focusing on the destination.
So really this whole idea of designing our character like a sky, it's about setting high standards for ourselves.
Yes.
It's about being aspirational and inspiring, but also being authentic and true to ourselves.
Exactly.
And it's about recognizing that character development is an ongoing process.
Absolutely. It's a lifelong journey.
Well, this has been a really thought-provoking deep dive. I think it's definitely given me a lot to think about.
Me too.
We talked about this contrast between being approachable and being aspirational.
Right.
We talked about how inspiring desire in others can be both positive and potentially manipulative.
Yeah.
And we talked about the importance of authenticity in building a sky-like character.
Absolutely.
So as we kind of wrap up here, I'd like to leave our listeners with a final thought.
Okay.
If your character was a landscape, what would it be?
Ooh, I like that. What kind of terrain would people encounter? And what would make them want to explore it?
That's a great question for everyone to ponder.
Yeah, I think it's a really powerful image to kind of leave us with. So thanks for joining me on this deep dive. And until next time, keep reaching for your own personal sky.
Thanks for having me.
All right, take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.